Hi y'all, James here. Got a video on some of the techniques I've developed for sanding 3D printed parts for my B9 robot I'm building. I've kind of come up with a few techniques that seem to work pretty well, in particular for those who've 3D printed the wheels that go in the tread section of the B9. So that's what I'm going to show you today. Here's a 3D, one of the types of wheels that are used in the tread section, 3D printed version of it. This is a 4x2" wheel. There's different sizes in there, but anyway, this is the largest wheel. And this is unsanded, unfinished, just straight from the print. I don't know how well you can see that. The print lines there. But that's where this is the key area I'm going to try to sand down, where we kind of eliminate these print lines or layer lines. As far as I can tell, I haven't assembled this yet to know for sure, but the visible part of the wheels is basically from the edge of the hole out to the edge here, and then the edge here is I think visible, and then the beveled part of the wheel I think is also visible. I don't believe any of this is really visible because you got the tread that goes over there, so I'm not paying a lot of attention to sanding there. I am sanding some, just so it's not overly rough surface there, because eventually I want to try to make my treads actually turn. So I'm going to sand that down a little bit, but I'm really concentrating on this edge here, this edge here, and the surface here. All right. So to start with, after you've printed it, I found out that for me anyway, that I do not sand the bare plastic. Doing that has a tendency, at least with me, that it gets a little bit too warm on the plastic, and it kind of gums up as you're sanding, and it's actually hard to get a very smooth surface. So I don't even bother sanding the plastic directly to start with. Obviously I remove any flashing that's on the print, from the print itself, but I basically start with a bare plastic and not sand it. And then I put some filler on it. And the filler I found that works very, very well is this Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 filler and sandable primer. This works very, very well. It's easy to sand, it's easy to work with. I like it a lot. So what I do is I spray 2 coats of this on before I do any sanding. So I spray a coat and I let it set 45 minutes to an hour. Probably don't need to let it set that long, but anyway, I let it set about an hour and put a second coat on. After I get the second coat on, I let that second coat dry for at least 24 hours before I sand. Now, when I first started sanding, my fingers and hands got really sore holding sandpaper and holding the wheel. You imagine trying to hold this wheel and sanding on here, and it just wears, especially on the edges, it just wears you out. So I've come up with a technique I think works really well. First thing I would suggest is you get a mask and put the mask on to keep you from getting dust, breathing in the dust. We're all used to masks now, so wear one when you're working with the sanding, because that'll protect your lungs. And then get you one of these sanding discs. You can get them in almost any hardware store. Most of them have Velcro backing now, so you just basically grab a sandpaper with Velcro backing and put it on there. Chuck that into your drill. Just to be a drill with a battery would help. Anyway, chuck it in your drill. I start off with 400 grit. Okay, so get you some 400 grit sandpaper, this size, whatever disc you got, get that size sandpaper, and put on there. And then you basically just hold the piece up in your hand and turn it on and sand like this. Not sure, I don't remember exactly how long it takes, how much it takes to sand that down, but I would say probably less than 3 minutes. Three minutes or somewhere around there is what I took. You don't want to go real fast, with the drill, because then again it'll get hot and that's not good for the plastic. Even though you got filler on there now, you'll don't want to overheat it. And then you definitely don't want to get into the plastic, okay? So kind of watch what you're doing, check it, and make sure you're not getting into the plastic. The color of the primer is a little bit different than basic gray. I guess you could kind of tell the difference here. This one here is primed, this one is not. So there's some color difference. For those of you who got a print bed that has an etched glass bed, you'll get a little grid surface on your print. If you start to see that come through as you're sanding, definitely stop. But anyway, do not get into the plastic. Just basically, sand it down. And with 400 grit, this will get real silky smooth on this surface. It'll be really, really nice. It does a really good job.